Number 5. One Tuesday night at 8:30 p.m., my mom was doing the washing on the second floor. Me and my 5-year-old brother were watching TV. My little bro was falling asleep on my lap. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. I carefully pushed Daniel off my knee and put my blanket on me. Anyway, I ran to the window, looked out, and it was my best friend Dee. I opened the door and she had a weird board game in her hand. She greeted me and I welcomed her in. Then she said, "Look at my new board game." I said, "Cool, let's play." So she set it out and she was the medium. We put candles out because it was pitch black straight away and it said, "Hello." Dee said, "That's weird, it usually takes 5 to 10 minutes to respond." I said, "Creepy. Anyway, let's play." So I asked the spirit how many people are in this building now. It said 6 people. I shrugged and Dee said, "That can't be right. It's only me, you, Daniel, your mom, and the spirit." We both glared at each other. My mom came down the stairs and greeted me and Dee and went to go into the kitchen, but she stopped and glared at the board and said, "What on earth are you doing playing with that?" I said, "It's not mine, it's Dee's." She said, "Don't play, it's dangerous." Me and Dee shrugged and waited for my mom to walk out. Then Dee asked, "What is your name?" It said, "Nom Dee." I went white and said, "It spells demon if you unscramble it." Weird things started to happen. The glass started shaking, and it started saying a lot of rude words. Then it said, "You bitches go die." We let out a scream and then laughed, and we woke up Daniel. Daniel screamed, and we ran to him when he woke up, and he said, "The bad man tried to kill you and Ambi in my dream." I got the shivers and said, "Don't worry, Ambi's gonna be okay." So we sat him down and he wanted to ask a question, so he said, "Where are you, Ghosty, now?" And it responded, "In the kitchen with your mother." We all ran to the kitchen to see my mom having a spliff. She turned around and said, "What are you kids up to?" And we said, "The demon's gonna kill you." She shook her head and said, "Don't worry, that won't happen." Then something grabbed my hair and dragged me everywhere. Then did the same to Dean. My mom couldn't believe her eyes. She grabbed us and grabbed Daniel away from the board, brought some blankets, and ran to my uncle's. Dee couldn't go home because her mom and dad went to their friends 6 blocks away, so we all stayed overnight. My uncle went into ours to see the whole, and I mean the whole house trashed. He got the Ouija board and burned it. Then a face appeared in the fire. We all gasped. Number 4. The following story happened to me and a group of friends about a year ago. We haven't spoken of it since, especially not in the apartment where it took place, for fear that it may come back. We also only told a select few people about the experience. We all just wanted to forget it. My brother Brian, his roommate Matthew, and myself used the Ouija board at about 4 o'clock in the morning at my house. My parents were out of town and we had just thrown a huge party, so all 3 of us were pretty drunk. We came in contact with a spirit named Josh, who said he had died of cancer. Coincidentally, a friend of my brother's named Josh had died of cancer a few months beforehand. After this, Brian and Matthew had become very interested in using the board even more, and about a week later, they had their own board in their apartment. They came in contact with a spirit named Zach, who acted like an immature teenager, but was friendly at the same time. Zach liked to joke around and said things like Matthew's girlfriend gave him a disease, and Matthew was ugly. Zach seemed very attached to Matthew, and when asked about it, he said that he thought Matthew was funny and liked him. The board sucked them in. Brian and Matthew continued talking to Zach over the course of the next few days. Matthew even called out of work to stay home and talk to Zach. On one particular night, Zach told my brother and Matthew to be careful, and when asked why, the board spelled out police. That night, the police came to my house looking for my brother, for a reason that was settled shortly after. After the incident, my brother and Matthew told me about the board and everything it had said to them since they started using it. I became interested and wanted to see what this Zach thing was about. So that night, me and my friend David went to my brother's apartment to use the board with them. We tried to come in contact with Zach, but had no luck. I took my hands off of the planchette, and as soon as I did, it started to move, and Zach started speaking. Brian asked if Zach wasn't talking because of me, and it said yes. So instead of participating, I watched and wrote down everything that Zach said. The conversation started normal, and my brother thanked Zach for warning him about the cops. After about 10 minutes though, the atmosphere completely changed. The planchette kept on moving back and forth between M and A. We told the board to stop, and it did, but shortly after it started counting down from 10. Before it could reach 1, Matthew angrily yelled stop, and it did. Then it spelled out, "Always so scared," and the planchette began rotating in circles, and then started going back and forth between M and A. We asked to end the session and it said no the first time, but when we said it again, the planchette moved to goodbye. Now I know we should have stopped there, but we didn't. We opened the board back up and asked for Zach again. When the planchette moved to hello, we asked if the spirit was Zach and it said yes. We asked, what were we just talking to? The planchette stayed still for a few seconds, but then started the MA thing again. We yelled stop, and then Brian asked to speak to the gatekeeper. The planchette moved to hello, and Brian asked again, what was the thing that we were just speaking to? Was it a demon? The planchette started counting down from 10 again, and after we stopped it, it started the MA yet again. This time it stopped on its own and began saying very mean things like, fuck you, and started calling Brian names. When my brother asked why it was calling him names, it said, God watches over you. My brother is an atheist, so he asked the spirit if it was angry because he doesn't believe in God, and it said yes. This made Brian extremely angry, and he started asking the board even more questions, but we stopped him and eventually ended the session. Brian didn't feel comfortable in the apartment, so he and David came back to my house while Matthew decided to stay for the night. Brian went to sleep in the guest room as soon as we got back, but David and I stayed awake in my room for a few hours. We started talking about how weird the night had been and traded opinions on what we thought the spirit was. In the middle of the conversation, my bedroom door slammed shut. No one else in the house was awake, and there was no draft, so it was impossible for the door to slam on its own. The next morning, while I was taking my brother back to the apartment, he told me about dreams he had the night before. He said in his dream he saw faces. Each face was screaming, with blood coming from their eyes. He said he saw a woman cut her wrists and then slit her own throat. When we got back to his apartment, Matthew was gone, so Brian called him and figured out that he eventually did leave the night before. When he got to the apartment, he told us how he tried going to sleep, but felt a strong presence in the room with him. He said it felt like there was a crowd of people surrounding his bed, watching him. So he left the apartment and went to his parents' house. While laying in bed at his parents' house, Matthew told us he saw a shadow standing in the bathroom watching him. Needless to say, we were all pretty freaked out. We broke the board into 7 pieces and threw it in a dumpster outside of the apartment. David, who was Catholic, also talked to a priest and had him come to the apartment to bless it. Afterwards, David also put a Bible in each room. Ever since, we have still had weird, unexplainable things happen to each of us. Although they are not necessarily scary and happen only once every blue moon, to this day, I still think that something could have possibly stuck with us after the breaking of the board and the blessing. I know there is no possible way of me proving that these things happened, but they did. And please, even if you don't believe my story, never mess with the Ouija board or try contacting the dead. I used to be extremely interested and curious about it, but now I regret ever touching the thing. Number 3. So since I was raised a Christian and a Catholic, I've never been much into the paranormal stuff, but a priest told me something about my soul some years ago, and I wanted to know more about the subject. When I was younger, my mother took me to a priest, and he told me that I was special because my soul was different from those of other people. He didn't explain, and that stuck to my head. So I decided to try the Ouija board, since people said it was a way of getting answers. This is how my session went. Are there any spirits here that wish to make contact? Nothing happened for a second, and then the planchette moved to no. So you don't want to talk to me? He went to no one more time. I asked why, and it spelled out danger. I wasn't scared or nervous, just curious, so I continued. Am I in danger? It said no. Are you in danger? Yes. Why? It started to say gibberish and do figure eights, and I knew this was bad, so I ordered it to stop immediately. Why are you in danger? Demon. Are you a demon? Yes. At this point I was a bit scared because I didn't know how to deal with the demon. Then why are you in danger? I tried one more time, already prepared to say goodbye. Tiggy. I searched and found out that it's Latin for you. I asked if it was because of me. It said yes. That's when the weird part came. Do you know why I'm different? Yes. Can you spell it? It stopped moving for about 5 seconds, then it spelled Angelus, and went to goodbye. I searched again and found out that Angelus means literally angel in Latin. I don't know if this is what the demon meant, but if there's any chance it was correct, does it mean I'm an angel? I don't want to play the Ouija board again, but I am left with more questions than ever. Number 2. My story begins when I was about 8 years of age. My sister Christina and her friend were babysitting me, but were messing with their Ouija board. My mother had thought they had gotten rid of this weeks beforehand, but to no avail. My mother had told my sister the things that happened to her when she was younger. and swore that it brings bad presences through which follow you and are hard to get rid of. They were in the bedroom in the closet with candles around the board, asking me questions like who, what, where, and when. The board gave them an answer. I can't remember the name of the person, but it also gave an address. It was on a location on the main road, North Anthony Boulevard, in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Her and her friend were determined to find out what this thing wanted to tell them. She packed the Ouija board up and had me get my shoes on to go with her. So we drove around looking for the address, and it was really late and dark already. They finally found the address, the thing, as I like to call it, gave them. It was a cemetery. This alone just freaks me out to this day. They take me with them into almost the center of the cemetery. We passed many statues and gravestones along the way. I was sitting by someone's headstone waiting patiently for them to finish what they were doing. The name given to them was next to them, and they had placed candles all around and on top of it. They began to ask him more questions. I'm not really sure what, but I do remember a few moments later, my sister's friend struck with terror of something that was said to them. Suddenly, the candles blew out, and they turned to see one of the statues of an angel was looking right at us. It was originally facing the other side of the cemetery. They ran screaming, leaving me behind. I got up and just remembered the terror that went through my body when I saw this thing. The face was so white, and the eyes were hollowed out and blacked out. I could still feel that it was staring at me. Its mouth was open, almost like it was trying to say something. It terrified me. I ran out of there so fast and never wanted to ever go back. Years later, I still have been trying to see if I can find any pictures of it online, but I haven't seen any yet. Number 1. It was a normal Thursday night in the summer in central Illinois. During the summer, my friends and I would get together and watch movies, play video games, and drink. One night, we decided to play with the Ouija board and use the shot glass as the pointer. So, as by usual, the 6 of us were a bit rowdy, and my friends were playing around, moving the shot glass over to spell out perverted words after asking vulgar questions. Finally, everyone was calmed down, and the main speaker, Caleb, began asking questions, and we started to receive responses. Was anyone there? Yes. At first, everyone was thinking someone else moved the glass, so we asked another question. How many of you are here? 1. What's your name? OC. Someone asked if that was the name of anyone in our town or something, playing along to see if this was true. And when he was on the phone, the glass spelled out, stop. Just about this time, my friend said that OC was the name of the demon. We asked him a few other questions and finally told it. Make it known if you're in the room with us. And then the 8 ball fell off to the stand where all the other pool balls are. If any of us had any doubt that this wasn't real, it was gone at this point. OC then said, picture. So my friend who had the phone took a picture straight on over me. He looked at the phone, and a shadow was easily visible standing over me. Everyone wanted to quit, but Caleb said he had one last question. Touch one of us to prove that you're real. Then Caleb started screaming, and the kid who had the phone said goodbye, and Caleb stopped screaming. We looked at his back, and he had 3 scratch marks running from his shoulder blade down to his lower back. To this day, we've never played with the Ouija board again.